Who were the people who lived in North Africa before the pharaohs? Who stood against the Romans? Who built empires the world forgot? Who are the Berbers, and why has their true story remained hidden for so long? Is it time to rediscover the forgotten civilization beneath the sands of history? The lost civilization of the Berbers, North Africa's hidden history. Beneath the vast sands of the Sahara and behind the ancient walls of North African mountains lies a civilization often overshadowed by the grandeur of Egypt, Carthage, and Rome. The Berbers, or Imazighen as they call themselves, are the indigenous people of North Africa with a history that stretches back millennia. Their legacy, etched in stone carvings, oral traditions, and forgotten cities, tells a story of resilience, innovation, and cultural richness that defies erasure. For centuries, they thrived across an expanse of terrain from the Atlantic coast to the Nile, from the Mediterranean to the Sahel. Yet their historical significance remains largely obscured in mainstream narratives. The Berbers are not a relic of the past. They are a living civilization whose roots delve deep into prehistoric times. From prehistoric cave art in the Sahara to the founding of powerful kingdoms, they have shaped the cultural and political landscapes of North Africa in profound ways. Their presence predates the arrival of Phoenicians, Romans, and Arabs, marking them as one of the oldest continuous civilizations in the region. Uncovering the hidden history of the Berbers is not merely an act of academic curiosity. It is a reclamation of a lost chapter in world history. Their stories reveal how indigenous African societies adapted to environmental extremes, engaged with imperial powers, and left indelible marks on architecture, language, and spirituality. The documentary aims to explore this enduring civilization by journeying through their origins, the rise of their early kingdoms, their resistance against colonization, and the legacy that continues in the vibrant Amazigh identity today. This is the story of the Imazighen, free people, whose ancient voices whisper through the mountains of the Atlas and the dunes of the Sahara, waiting to be heard once more. Long before the rise of the great Mediterranean empires, the ancestors of the Berber people were already thriving in North Africa. Anthropological and genetic evidence connects the Berbers to the Mekta Afalu and Capsian cultures, dating back more than 10,000 years. These prehistoric populations, known for their stone tools and burial customs, laid the groundwork for the development of settled communities and complex societies in the Maghreb region. The Berber languages, collectively known as Tamazight, belong to the Afro-Asiatic language family, making them linguistic relatives of ancient Egyptian, Semitic, and Cushitic languages. This ancient linguistic heritage points to a deep-rooted presence in North Africa, predating foreign influence. Despite waves of invasions and cultural shifts, the Tamazight dialects have survived, particularly in mountainous and desert regions where Berber identity remains strong. Long before the Phoenicians established Carthage or the Romans marched through Africa Proconsularis, the Berbers had developed their own social systems, spiritual beliefs, and agricultural practices. They cultivated grains, domesticated animals, and developed trade routes across the Sahara, linking sub-Saharan Africa with Mediterranean ports. Their adaptability to harsh terrains and climates speaks to an ingenious use of natural resources and a deep understanding of their environment. One of the most striking pieces of evidence of their ancient cultural expression is the rock art found in the Tassili Niger Plateau in southeastern Algeria. These vivid depictions, dating as far back as 6000 BCE, show scenes of hunting, dancing, and spiritual rituals. The art suggests a thriving society with a spiritual connection to nature and an organized way of life. These works, etched and painted on sandstone cliffs, are more than just decoration. They are historical records of a people whose history predates written text. Through archaeological findings and linguistic analysis, we now understand that the Berbers were among Africa's earliest civilizations. Their story is not one of isolation, but of enduring presence through changing epochs, a testament to their resilience and cultural integrity. As the ancient world shifted and empires rose and fell around the Mediterranean, the Berbers transitioned from tribal societies to established kingdoms. Among the most renowned were Numidia, Mauritania, and the enigmatic Garamantes. Numidia, located in present-day Algeria and western Tunisia, rose to prominence in the 3rd century BCE. It was unified under the leadership of King Massinissa, a pivotal figure in Berber history. Initially an ally of Carthage during the Punic Wars, Massinissa later aligned with Rome, showcasing the political acumen of Berber rulers. Under his rule, Numidia became a centralized and organized kingdom, with a powerful cavalry that impressed even the Romans. His administration encouraged agriculture, military expansion, and urban development, laying the foundations for one of North Africa's most influential indigenous kingdoms. To the west, Mauritania encompassed parts of modern Morocco and western Algeria. Known for its rich resources and strategic coastal position, Mauritania maintained autonomy while engaging diplomatically with both Carthaginian and Roman powers. It produced notable rulers like King Juba II, a Roman-educated monarch who married Cleopatra Selene II, daughter of Cleopatra and Mark Antony. This union symbolized the blending of African and Mediterranean cultures and solidified Mauritania's role as a cultural crossroads. In the heart of the Sahara, the Garamantes established a thriving desert civilization in what is now southwestern Libya. Flourishing from around 500 BCE to 700 CE, the Garamantes mastered the art of survival in extreme desert conditions. They developed sophisticated qanat systems, underground aqueducts that transported water from deep aquifers to their fields, enabling them to cultivate crops and sustain large settlements in the otherwise inhospitable Fezzan region. They also engaged in trans-Saharan trade, exchanging goods like gold, salt, and slaves with sub-Saharan and Mediterranean markets. The Berber kingdoms demonstrated remarkable levels of technological and political sophistication. They built fortified cities, administered complex social systems, and developed forms of governance that blended indigenous traditions with imported ideas. Their cavalry forces, especially in Numidia, were renowned for speed and maneuverability, influencing Roman military practices. While often portrayed as peripheral players in the grand narrative of antiquity, these Berber empires were, in fact, integral to the geopolitical and cultural dynamics of North Africa. Their interactions with major civilizations were not merely reactive. They were proactive, strategic, and often transformative. The Berbers were not passive subjects of history. They were active architects of their own destinies, shaping the course of ancient Africa in ways the world is only beginning to recognize. Throughout history, the Berbers have demonstrated an enduring spirit of resistance against foreign domination. One of the earliest and most notable examples came during the Roman Empire's expansion into North Africa. While Rome sought to impose its governance and taxation systems, the Berber tribes resisted these impositions with tenacity. The mountainous terrains and desert strongholds offered strategic advantages to local communities, enabling them to wage effective guerrilla-style resistance. A prominent figure in this resistance was Tacfarinas, a former Roman auxiliary soldier turned rebel leader. Between 17 and 24 CE, Tacfarinas led a prolonged and widespread revolt against Roman rule in the province of Africa. His campaign was so persistent that it required repeated military campaigns by the Romans to suppress it. Tacfarinas' resistance was not merely a rebellion, it was a symbol of the Berbers' refusal to submit entirely to foreign authority. Despite centuries of colonization, first by Rome, then by the Vandals, Byzantines, and eventually the Arabs, the Berbers maintained cultural continuity. Their language, customs, tribal structures, and spiritual beliefs endured and even adapted to new circumstances. Villages continued to celebrate traditional festivals, oral storytelling preserved ancestral knowledge, and Tamazight remained the language of identity and resistance. Berber resilience also took the form of pragmatic alliances. Some Berber groups collaborated with Rome when it was strategically advantageous. These alliances allowed them to maintain autonomy in their regions and to benefit from trade and military partnerships. Far from being passive recipients of external control, the Berbers selectively integrated elements of Roman culture and infrastructure such as roads and forts into their own ways of life. This chapter of Berber history reveals a society that was neither entirely isolated nor wholly subjugated. The Berbers managed to strike a delicate balance between resistance and adaptation, ensuring the survival and evolution of their identity across centuries of change. Their ability to endure without losing their essence remains a defining feature of their civilization. In the 7th century, the Islamic conquest swept across North Africa, bringing profound political, religious, and cultural transformations. The Berbers, once again at a crossroads of empires, faced a new wave of influence from the Arabian Peninsula. The response of the Berber people to this conquest was multifaceted, ranging from fierce resistance to enthusiastic adoption of the new faith. The initial stages of the Arab expansion into North Africa were marked by military campaigns that aimed to integrate the region into the rapidly growing Islamic Caliphate. While some Berber tribes welcomed the new religion and converted voluntarily, others resisted the political domination that accompanied the spread of Islam. For many, conversion did not mean subjugation. One of the most iconic figures in Berber resistance to the Arab conquest was the warrior Queen Kahina, also known as Al-Kahina. Leading a coalition of tribes, she fiercely opposed the Umayyad armies in the late 7th century. According to Arab historians, she ruled over a confederation of Berber tribes and managed to halt the advance of Arab forces temporarily. Though eventually defeated, her legacy lives on as a symbol of Berber defiance and leadership. Over time, many Berber communities embraced Islam, but they did so on their own terms. The process of Islamization was not synonymous with Arabization. Berbers adopted the tenets of Islam while preserving their language, customs, and unique interpretations of faith. Sufi traditions flourished in Berber regions, reflecting a spiritual approach that resonated with indigenous values. Berber Muslims played crucial roles in the administration and military expansion of Islamic North Africa. They contributed to the establishment of mosques, religious schools, and trade networks. Yet even as Islam became deeply rooted in Berber societies, their distinct cultural identity remained intact. This chapter highlights the nuanced and complex nature of the Berber response to Islam. It was not a simple narrative of conquest and assimilation, but rather a dynamic process of negotiation, adaptation, and identity preservation. The Berbers' integration into the Islamic world enriched the diversity of the Muslim civilization and ensured that their voice continued to shape the destiny of North Africa. The Islamic era saw the rise of powerful Berber-led dynasties that reshaped the political and cultural landscapes of North Africa and the wider Islamic world. Among the most significant were the Almoravids and the Almohads, whose legacies continue to influence the region today. In the 11th century, the Almoravid dynasty emerged from the Sahara, founded by a religious movement among the Sanhaja Berbers. Under the leadership of Yusuf ibn Tashfin, the Almoravids unified large swaths of North Africa and extended their rule into the Iberian Peninsula. Their capital, Marrakesh, became a thriving center of Islamic learning and architecture. The Almoravids are credited with consolidating Sunni orthodoxy and promoting religious reform throughout their realm. The Almohads followed in the 12th century, originating from the Atlas Mountains under the leadership of Ibn Tumart, a religious reformer. The Almohads emphasized strict monotheism and sought to purify Islamic practice. They overthrew the Almoravids and established a vast empire that spanned from the Atlantic Ocean to modern-day Libya and into Spain. Their rule was marked by architectural grandeur, including the construction of impressive mosques and minarets, such as the Koutoubia Mosque in Marrakesh and the Giralda in Seville. Beyond military conquests and religious reforms, these dynasties played a pivotal role in the transmission of knowledge. They established centers of learning, libraries, and universities that preserved and expanded upon the knowledge of classical antiquity and early Islamic scholars. Berber-ruled cities like Fez and Marrakesh became intellectual beacons during the Islamic Golden Age, hosting scholars in medicine, astronomy, philosophy, and theology. The contributions of Berber dynasties extended to the cultural and architectural fabric of the Islamic world. Their unique blend of indigenous and Islamic styles produced a rich heritage that continues to attract admiration and study. In the process, they demonstrated that Berbers were not just participants but leaders in the shaping of Islamic civilization. Far from being marginalized, the Berbers rose to positions of power, influence, and cultural innovation. Their dynasties were instrumental in defining the character of Islamic North Africa and forging connections with Europe through Al-Andalus. This chapter underscores the transformation of Berbers from resistant tribes to empire builders, whose achievements remain central to the story of Islamic history. The arrival of European colonial powers in North Africa marked a new chapter of upheaval for the Berber people. During the 19th and 20th centuries, France, Spain, and Italy partitioned the region, each imposing its own form of governance. The Berbers, already familiar with cycles of conquest, now faced aggressive cultural erasure and economic exploitation. In Algeria and Morocco, French colonial policy actively divided Arabs and Berbers through the 1930 Berber Decree, ostensibly to protect Berber culture, but in practice to divide and rule. Spain exerted similar control in northern Morocco, and Italy subjugated Berber communities in Libya. Colonial regimes marginalized Berber language and customs, often favoring Arabic or European languages in administration and education. This marginalization continued post-independence as new Arab-dominated nation-states sought unity through Arabization. In Algeria and Morocco, Tamazight, the Berber language, was banned from schools and public discourse. The state often depicted Berber identity as a threat to national cohesion, forcing many to abandon public displays of their heritage. However, the Berber people remained resilient. Beginning in the late 20th century, a grassroots cultural and linguistic revival took hold, spearheaded by Amazigh intellectuals and activists. They demanded recognition of their language, history, and identity. In response to persistent activism, Morocco amended its constitution in 2011 to recognize Tamazight as an official language, and Algeria followed in 2016. Amazigh institutes, like the Royal Institute of Amazigh Culture, IRCM, in Morocco, were established to promote research, education, and the preservation of Berber culture. This cultural renaissance extends beyond language. Festivals celebrating Amazigh heritage have grown in popularity, and the blue, yellow, and green Amazigh flag now flies in public demonstrations and homes. The modern Berber movement is not just about the past, it's a powerful reassertion of identity in the face of historical marginalization. Despite centuries of external influence and repression, the cultural legacy of the Berbers lives vibrantly through their daily practices and communal expressions. Traditional Berber architecture, characterized by earthen homes, kasbahs, and kisawar, reflects harmony with North Africa's arid landscapes. These structures, particularly in the Atlas Mountains and southern Morocco, are functional yet artistically expressive, incorporating geometric motifs and symbolic carvings. Berber craftsmanship remains world-renowned. Women play a crucial role as guardians of heritage, particularly in textile arts and silver jewelry. Intricate weaving techniques, vibrant dyes, and symbolic patterns embedded in rugs and garments tell stories passed down generations. Tattooing, once a rite of passage and a form of protection, also reveals deep spiritual and cultural values. Women's societal roles have historically been significant in Berber communities. In some Amazigh societies, matrilineal inheritance was practiced, and oral histories were preserved and transmitted by elder women. These oral traditions include poetry, songs, and proverbs that encode communal wisdom and historical memory. Cultural expression remains central to Berber identity. Celebratory events such as Yenaye, Amazigh New Year, highlight agricultural cycles and communal solidarity. Storytelling, music, and dance, particularly the rhythmic ahidos and the haunting melodies of the Imazigh, are still integral to village life and festivals. In modern times, Amazigh themes flourish in contemporary art, film, and music. Filmmakers, writers, and musicians increasingly use their platforms to revitalize Berber heritage and bring it to global audiences. This creative energy continues to nourish the cultural identity of Imazighen in the 21st century. The story of the Berbers is not just one of a lost civilization. It is the story of a people who have endured and adapted through millennia of conquest, colonization, and cultural suppression. Their ancient legacy is intricately woven into the fabric of North African history, yet too often overlooked in mainstream historical narratives. From prehistoric rock art to the empires of the Almoravids and Almohads, and from resistance leaders like Dihya to modern Amazigh activists, the Berbers have consistently asserted their identity and rights. They have been farmers, warriors, philosophers, and artists, contributors to both regional and global civilizations. What makes the Berber experience particularly compelling is their ability to preserve a distinct cultural identity while integrating and contributing to diverse civilizations. In the 21st century, the Amazigh revival reflects a broader human desire for recognition, dignity, and historical justice. This documentary has aimed to peel back the layers of time to uncover the living heritage of the Berbers. It calls for renewed awareness, deeper appreciation, and proactive preservation of Amazigh culture. The Berbers remind us that history is not always written in stone. It often survives in voices, memories, rituals, and language. They are a living testament to the invisible thread of history that continues to shape North Africa and enrich our understanding of the human story.